Hi Shumates, in this video we'll be learning how to make this beautiful pink halter neck dress with a basque waistline. Yes, I actually achieved this design with 2 yards of crepe fabric. Yes, this is a crepe fabric. So if you like to see how I made this, then you need to watch this video to the very end. I'll also be sharing with you things I would have done differently if I were to make this dress all over again. That being said, my name is Veronica Adams Eze. Welcome to Vera Adams YouTube channel. Without wasting time, let's get started. So I've gone ahead to draft basic bodice right here because I don't want this video to be very long. I don't know, I have issues uploading videos lately. So anyways, this is the front and this is the back, the regular thing. And if you don't know how to go about this, you can check my previous video on how to do this. So the first thing I'll be doing here is connecting from the neck width. I have a neck width of 3 inches. I'll connect it right into the armhole. So I'm using this slightly curved part of this rule. So I'll go ahead and connect it just as you're seeing me doing here. I shouldn't have used a marker pen at this point, but I actually used it because we're still going to have to adjust this this part. But anyways, moving on, I'm extending the mid part of the armhole forward as you're seeing me doing, and at that point I'm going to go in by 2/4, that's 0.25 on both sides, and I'll come down by about 2.5 inches. I'm just trying to create a dart around that area so that there will be no gaping. Here I realized that I did 1/2 inch, so I'm trying to correct that. So I'll go ahead and correct it, then have, like I said, 0.25 on both sides so that it will give us a total of 0.5, that's 1/2 inch. So this is just to avoid gaping around the armhole region. So once this is done, I'll go ahead and work on the neckline by coming down from the shoulder line by 6 inches, and I'll connect right into the neck width just as you're seeing me doing here. So the adjustment that I talked about earlier, this is where it will come in. So from this from the neck width that we have, I'm going to mark 1.5 inches. So right here I marked it right on the starting line, but it's supposed to be on that slope that we already created for the neckline. So I'm going ahead and still repeat and mark 1.5 inches right on that point. So from there I will connect right into the armhole just as you're seeing me doing right here. And of course that means we have to extend the dart that we took upwards as so. I'll go ahead and use my marker pen to draw out the new armhole curve. To avoid confusion, I'm going to go ahead and cancel the initial one that we did. So now that we're done with the neckline, the upper part, I'm going to move down to the lower part. So right here I'm measuring 17 inches from the shoulder line. That is where I want the basque effect to start. You can actually start with 16 inches or even 18 inches, but right here I'm using 17 inches and I'm connecting it to, I think I have about 23 inches in length here. You can actually do a straight line or you can make it a bit curvy, but I'm working with a straight V shape. So I realized right here that I started the basque effect from 18 inches. So I'm trying to correct it here because I want it exactly at 17 inches. So right now I have it. I've gone ahead to use marker pen to highlight it so that I do not make a mistake when cutting it out. So moving on to the back piece, I'm also going to mark 17 inches right from the shoulder line and also go ahead to mark it directly into the center back region. So once that is done, following the slope, I'm going to go ahead to mark 1 inch for the zipper allowance. You know that I already created the back slope such that the zipper will not budge. So right from that slope, I've already gone ahead to mark 1 inch for the zipper allowance. So what I'm doing right here is I want to determine how low I want the back to be, and this is unlike me, but I actually want this low. So I'm coming down by 1/2 inch from the chest line, and I'll go ahead to connect it right into the armhole. Now I can go ahead to extend the dart line upward to meet this new chest line. So I'll go ahead and take 0.25 on both sides. This is just to ensure that that there is no gaping at the back. This is for back tightening to ensure that there is no bulging or no gaping around the back region. Now I'll go ahead and indicate the space for the zipper allowance. I'm connecting the mark that I made earlier. So right here, once this is done, I'll go ahead and highlight the major points on this back piece. If you've been seeing my videos, you know that I do not like to have that on the back of my dress or a top. So I'm going ahead to close this up. So once we close this up, you'll be able to see if the line connects. And right here, you can see that the V-shaped basque effect do not connect. So I'm going to go ahead to make sure that I have something that connects. So I'm trying to align it right here. Once this is done, I'm going to go ahead to cut out the paper, and I'm going to start cutting from the back piece before we move on to the front. So we're going to actually be working on the back to get the neckline extension for the front piece. So please pay attention at this point. So from the back neck depth, I'm going to be coming down by 1.5. Remember that when we're marking for the front, we did 1.5. So whatever you use for the front, repeat the same for the back. So once I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and connect it together. Then I'm going to cut it out. But make sure to label this before cutting out. I actually did that later so that you won't be confused when you're trying to attach it to the front piece. So there's a center back part, there's the upper part and the lower part. You'll be seeing this here. So that if you do not label it, you might actually place it wrongly. So this is what it looks like when you place it wrongly. It's really not aligning. This part is aligning with the center back, and you see that part that I wrote down is now facing up, while where I wrote up is facing down. So but let me do it the proper way. Now we have it the proper way. You see that where I wrote up is actually facing up, and where I wrote down is actually facing down, and then where I wrote center back is actually extending towards the center back. So this is how you're supposed to place it. So now that this is done, I'll go ahead to cut out the waistline for the front, but I'm also closing up the darts so that I can properly align everything together. So once this is done, I'll continue with the cutting. Somehow I forgot to close up the dart around this armhole region. I just don't understand how I completely forgot. So I think at the end I had a bit of gaping, although it was not so significant. But please make sure that when you're drafting and you're cutting yours, that you close up that area around the armhole so that everything sits perfectly on you or your client. So now that we're done with the front piece, we're going to cut out the back piece that we need. So you know that the upper part of this back is really not needed. So we're going to be cutting it all off. Remember also to close up the dart that we took around this region. I'll go ahead and use pins to secure this dart closed. So here's what it looks like after I got ahead to close up the dart. At this point, we are done with the drafting for the front and the back bodice. So right here is the fabric that I'll be using for this dress, and I have a crepe fabric of just 2 yards. It's actually a medium weight crepe fabric, so it's not too light and it's not too thick. So I'm going to go ahead to use the pattern paper that we have right here to cut it out. But before I do that, because of the lower part, you have to, if you're managing your fabric, you have to first cut out the part that will be gathered. So what I'm doing is that I want about 22 inches for the length of that part. So I'm going to go ahead to cut it out. I know I need 2 pieces, one for the front and one for the back. So I'm going to go ahead and that's why I'm folding my fabric here to see what I will have at the end. So what I have left, I'm going to manage it to cut out the upper body. So right here, I've gone ahead to cut out the front piece, and I went ahead to cut it out with this extension. I do not have masking tape or any form of tape here, so I could not tape this down. I ironed paper stay to this neckline extension for stability, and this is what it looks like when I went ahead to open it up. For this type of style, you need to make the neck depth a bit much because you'll be closing that back area up, and this part, when you close it up, has to be able to enter into your head. I had braids on, so it was a bit hard. If not, it was actually perfect. So if you're on the big size, you might want to come down. I used 6 inches. You might want to come down by 8 inches so that you have enough space for your head to enter into. As you can see, I've gone ahead to use the pattern to cut out the fabric, leaving or adding seam allowance. If you notice, the front piece I divided into two. The upper, there's an upper part and a lower part. That's because the fabric was not enough. You can as well leave yours as one piece. So, but the back piece is not in 2 pieces, just 1 piece. I hope you understand this. So right here, I'll go ahead to take the darts on the front. I've already gone ahead to notch areas using the pattern paper as a guide. So once I do this, I also repeat the same process for the lining piece. So if you notice, I actually close the dart on this lower part of the front piece. So when you close up the dart for the upper part of the front piece, that's the first part of the front piece, it will be able to fit perfectly into the lower piece because we close the dart on the lower piece. So this is what it looked like after I went ahead to take the darts on the lining and the fabric and attach the lower piece of the front bodice. The next thing is to place the lining on the fabric, right side facing right side, and go ahead and sew on the neckline just as you're seeing me doing here. Once you're done with the neckline, you also move ahead to the armhole region just as I'm illustrating, and also sew it down with 1/2 inch. So this is what we have after I went ahead to sew it. I actually top stitched on the neckline area on the lining piece. So this is it. Next thing to do is to bring in the back pieces. So as you can see, there's no demarcation on the waistline for the back as opposed to that of the front. I've also gone ahead to cut lining pieces for the back just as I did for the front, and as you can see, I went ahead to attach paper stay on it to just give stability. So first thing to do right here is to bring in 1 piece of the lining and 1 piece of the fabric, right side facing right side, and go ahead to start stitching down right from the upper part, that's the upper region, into the zipper region, then also at the side with 1/2 inch. I'll go ahead and repeat the same process for the second piece as well. So right here is the front piece. I had gone ahead to give it a good press, and here is the back pieces. I've also gone ahead to give it a good press. So now I'll go ahead and place these 2 back pieces together and pin it down at the zipper area. This is just to secure it, or you could just go ahead and run a loose stitch right at this point, since we are still going to loosen it to fix in the zipper. Putting that aside, I'm going to go ahead to work on the pieces for the gathers. So here I have about 23 inches in length, and the width is about 72 inches. I'll go ahead and run gather stitches on both pieces. Back on the front piece, I'll go ahead and bring in the back piece so that we can take the measurement. Take note that I've already gone ahead to run loose stitch at these back pieces, and I've already ironed it flat. So I'll go right here to cut out this excess around the lining area here. Once this is done, I can move ahead to stitch this piece down on both sides. So right here, I've taken the measurements and I'm using the chalk to illustrate where my stitches is going to be. Back from the sewing table, this is what I have after I went ahead to stitch on the sides. Then for the back pieces, I went ahead to go up by 2.5 inches from the edge and run an actual stitch around that area, since the zipper will not be extending into the gathers. So right here I have the gathers and I have the 2 pieces, one for the front and one for the back. So I'll bring in the one for the back and go ahead and get the center of these gathers I'll place a notch at the center so that I can align the center with the center of the upper bodice of the back. So this is what I'm doing right here. I'm aligning both, and I'll bring in my pin to start pinning it down. So I'll start pinning it down right from this point. Kindly note that I didn't close up the side completely. I left about 1 to 1.5 inches, as you can see, and that the width of these gathers that I have here is exactly the same as the measurement of this basque. I actually took the measurement and I added about 1 inch for stitching allowance. So once I was done with the first side, I'll move over to this other side and also repeat the same process and pin it down. Once I'm done pinning, I'll take it down to my sewing machine to stitch it down with 1/2 inch. I'll go ahead and bring the second gathered piece, and this piece will be for the front. So I'll place the center of this gathered piece to the center of the front, and I'll also use the pin to hold them in place. After pinning, I'll go ahead and run 1/2 inch stitch all around. This is what it looks like after I was done stitching. See how full it's looking. Actually like what I'm seeing right here. So now what is left is to close up this side that we didn't finish stitching down. So here are the two sides. I'll go ahead and turn it to the wrong side. So right from where the stitch stopped around the waistline, we're going to continue stitching down from that point to the hem of this dress. Once this has been done, the next thing is to open up the loose stitch at the back so as to fix in the zipper. I'll go ahead and fix the zipper off camera. Now the zipper has been fixed, and this is what it looks like at the back, and the side seams close perfectly. So the next thing to do, the final thing to do, is actually to close up the neck extension. This can actually be achieved in 2 ways. It's either I just take the 2 neck extension, put it right side facing right side, and just run a stitch to close it up. That will mean that you have to take it to the serger to serge, but that means the seams are visible. Or you could do it in a more professional way. And this involves opening up one side, that is the side that connects to the armhole. Just open it up by about 2 inches for both neck extension. Then connect the part of the actual neckline together of both the extensions, making sure that the top stitch parts are both aligning. Then you can go ahead and run a stitch of 1/2 inch from one end to the other, just as you're seeing here. Once this is done, you can now move ahead to push the seam inside, and it lays perfectly. You can take this to the ironing table to press it down, and that part can be closed up using hemming gum or just using needle and thread to just stitch it down without the stitches being visible on the right side. If there was something that I would do differently if I was to make this dress again, it would be actually bringing the armhole upward. For me, I actually think that the armhole was too low, so I would have brought it upwards by about 1 inch. And now we've come to the end of this tutorial. I hope you did find it useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up by clicking on the like button, and if you are new to this channel, kindly subscribe. If you have any question, do not hesitate to drop it in the comment section. I'll respond to you, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.